Before we start multiplying complex numbers, we need to understand how to multiply I. And we've had this concept of I is equal to the square root of negative 1. Okay? And I'm going to build upon that. So we need to figure out what I times I equals, which is I squared. Well, if we look at I times I, that means that's the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1. Well, that means that is the square root of negative 1 squared. Well, if you take the square root of something that's being squared, then that just means whatever's underneath actually comes out. So that's negative 1. Big picture topic there is that I squared equals negative 1. That is going to be very, very important. Make sure you write it down somewhere. We're going to expand upon this in a little bit, but something very important is that I squared, or I times I, is equivalent to negative 1. And this is kind of the reasoning behind it. So let's look at how we multiply complex numbers. A one-term type deal times two terms. So let's start off with an easy problem. Let's say it's 3 times 4 minus 5i. Well, we're going to treat this as distribution. You've done this before, nothing new here. Multiply that, so we get 12 minus 15i, and that's your solution. So no real tricks there. That's just distributing the 3 to each term, or rainbow method. Well, what happens if we take like 2i and multiply it by something? All right, so again, we distribute here. So 2i times negative 3 make negative 6i. 2i times 2i makes 2 times 2 is 4, I times I being I squared. And this goes back to where I just talked about. I squared is negative 1. So this is really negative 6i plus 4 times negative 1, because I squared is negative 1. So that turns this whole thing into negative 6i minus 4, because positive 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. But we need to write it in complex number form, so we need to put that part first. So that's how we would do that. I want to give you one more problem to try. So let's say try that problem. So hit pause, go ahead and work it out on your own, and then I want you to check your solution. Should have had time to work it out by now. Multiplying out, negative 3i times 1 is negative 3i. Negative 3i times negative 5i. So negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15, and then we get I squared. But again, that is really a negative 1. So that changes that sign to negative 15. Rewrite it. There's my solution. So this is multiplying complex numbers, a one-term complex, or a one-term times a two-term. All right?